Many thanks for staying tuned. Let's get straight into it. Now, while the NDDC has been at the forefront of addressing the developmental challenges of the Niger Delta region since its creation in 2000, its effectiveness has in some ways been questioned, with the Niger Delta region battling chronic environmental degradation and other issues of failure of infrastructure projects. Many in the South have voiced their frustrations over unfulfilled promises and incomplete initiatives. Fast forward to March 2025, which witnessed the birth of the South-South Development Commission, SSDC, with both commissions now in play. The question on everyone's mind is whether the Niger Delta region really needs two agencies to address the same challenges. Now, with the SSDC offering a fresh start, or does it risk adding another layer of bureaucracy without solving the core issues? A lot of angles to look at this from, but then we have in the studio an organization development consultant to address these issues with us. Mr. Marvel Essien joins us live on the program. You're welcome on the program, sir.
Good afternoon, Xavier.
Good to have
Thank you for joining
Good
us.
afternoon, yeah.
Well, the SSDC is here to stay. We also have the NDDC. And by the way, I will remind you that the NDDC is celebrating its 25th anniversary. That is by July 12th, which is when it was created in 2000. And 25 years down the line. If you have been following the activities of the NDDC, you would see that there have been different boards coming in. We've had mild dramas, and even serious dramas of people who are called to account for what they do and how they've been able to discharge their tasks as interventionist agency. Well, looking at 25 years so far, and with the birth of the SSDC, which is the South-South Development Commission, have you been able to sort of pinpoint a trajectory of development that the NDDC has spearheaded? Or how necessary would you say the SSDC, as it has been formed in March, is?
Xavier, I don't understand. Thank God you're not asking me to review NDDC's 25 years. You see, officially, government have had a way of differentiating the functions of NDDC with that of the South Development Commission. But you see, your question is related to the necessity of having these two commissions in the South-South. I will take you back a bit into history. You know, the first time in Nigeria that a commission was formed, a development commission was formed, was about 1961. And that was the Niger Delta Development Board. Thereafter, you had the UMPADEC that was subsequently scrapped. And when you look at the reason Niger Delta Development Commission was formed, it was basically to address the environmental degradation in the Niger Delta area. And that was a very clear, specific need of the area, that the environment is so degraded, and a lot of issues regarding oil spill, gas flaring, and all that was ongoing, that affected so much economic activities in the Niger Delta region. And therefore, there was the need for us to have this Niger Delta Development Commission to try to remedy some of these damages that were being done to the Niger Delta area. Now, you found that the commission was formed. Thereafter, you had the terrorist activities in the Northeast. Following the Northeast terrorist activities, people began to talk about the economic downturn in the Northeast and the damages, the environmental damages that was a resultant effect of the terrorist activities in the Northeast. And there was need to form a commission, a development commission as well in the Northeast. So now you have the development commission in the Northeast and you have the development commission in the Niger Delta area. What subsequently happened was a proliferation of development commissions, and people began to ask, should we have this commission, should we have that commission? And now all the zones clamored for a commission, which I think they now have. Now, for the South-South, the question now is, we have the Niger Delta Development Commission. And if you understand it, it consists of 9 states. And these 9 states spread across maybe 3 political zones in Nigeria. You have some states in the South-South, You have states in the southeast, and you also have states in the southwest as beneficiaries of members of the Niger Delta Development Commission. So now, if you are looking at the creation of the South-South Development Commission, it may have come out from a different set, a different mindset of having instituting regional developments in Nigeria. And that has nothing to do with the degradation of the environment that we're constantly experiencing, or we have been constantly experiencing in the Niger Delta region. So if you have a strategic commission formed for the development of the zones in Nigeria, of course it could align with what is obtainable in other parts of the world, where if you have a need, you now say, okay, let us have economic cooperation and have strategic networks to be able to. We had something like that in the past. I think it was called Brest Commission. Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom, Brest
Rivers,
Bayelsa Rivers,
Akwa
Ibom. Yeah. Of course, it's defunct now. Now, if you have such, it should be able to encourage cooperation. If I speak more on this, to seem as if I'm justifying the South-South Development Commission, but what it is, of course, it is very different. The activities officially has been streamlined and is very different from the Niger Delta Development Commission. And of course, if you want to look at it in terms of the intention of having this commission, then you could justify it. But of course, for people like us, we would not want to always look at the intentions behind these things, but we would like to look at it in terms of how functional it is and how beneficial it is to the zones or to the areas that they are meant to serve, and how they are going to function in those areas to bring about the intended development that these commissions are formed to take care of. They are different, even in terms of funding. It's also very different, because if you have a situation where the Niger Delta Development Commission, because we know it is funded through statutory allocations from the federal allocation. And of course, by the act of its formation, you also see the South-South Development Commission also has its own funding matrix. So they are different officially in that regard.
Okay, but so the Brest Commission is still very functional.
Is it functional?
Yes, they're having some challenges, but it's functional. Okay, now that takes me to my question. Now, with the establishment of the SSDC alongside the NDDC, the communities and states they are meant to serve, do you see any form of challenge when it comes to adapting to the change that has come to them? Do you see any form of challenge in that regards?
That they are having two commissions, development commissions?
Yes.
So of course, very glaringly, there are challenges that you would witness, because even in the governance of NDDC itself, they had challenges on its own, and that challenges would not be any different from any other commission in Nigeria, that is any other development commission in Nigeria, that is aside from the South-South Development Commission. So if you want to look closely at what kind of challenges they may be having, of course, you see, you hear the NDDC complaining about funding as well.
I'm talking about the communities and the states they are meant to serve. Do you think there will be any transitional challenge because of the change, the introduction of this new commission?
Transition, I don't know, are you looking at NDDC?
Not NDDC, the communities and the states these commissions are to serve. Do you think they will grapple with a changing phase?
Let me take it this way.
Okay.
You have Akwa Ibom State, for example.
True.
Akwa Ibom State is an area in the Niger Delta Development Commission. Then South-South Development Commission also has Akwa Ibom State.
Now,
you are looking at the community of Akwa Ibom State, for example. You see, these are different areas. The development, the NDDC, they are there as an interventionist commission for the activities of the oil exploration activities. Then you have the South-South Development Commission as a strategic commission meant for development, promotion of tourism, agriculture, industrialization, and so on. So they could function separately. But if the communities are looking, they should also relate with these commissions separately in that way, that you have a challenge in terms of oil exploration activities. You know who to complain to. You are seeking development for your environment or for your area in terms of industrialization, in terms of agriculture, you know where to go to. But I would have thought your question would be like, these areas, how are they going to benefit from these two commissions in a manner
simultaneously?
Simultaneously.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, because the concept is different.
Okay.
The concept of solving a different problem by itself, the boundaries are clearly drawn officially. But to what extent would these boundaries be implemented is another issue completely, because the understanding of the people is that if you have a need to address, it's the people that should even tell you what their needs are.
Yeah.
So by the way the Niger Delta Development Commission is operating today, you have representation, for example, from Edo State or Akwa Ibom State in the commission today, who just sits there as a federal government parastatal and makes recommendations from there. You don't really have effective representation of the State Executive Council in the NDDC. And that on its own is a challenge, because when you want to address a need in Akwa Ibom State, for example, how do you now relate it? Because the people on the one hand are deliberating on the State Executive Council, for example, about construction of a road project, and in the NDDC they're also discussing construction of a road project. Which of the roads are most economically viable would be determined by the people themselves, the area themselves, the people, the ultimate beneficiaries of this. So if you had a situation where the Niger Delta Development Commission had, for example, Commissioner for Works in Akwa Ibom State being a representative of the government of Akwa Ibom State in that commission, then you would have had a situation where they could be more aligned in terms of their development plans.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I was going to put in this question. The SSDC, the South-South Development Commission, coming on board, a lot of people believe that it addresses the issue of underrepresentation, because some people were of the opinion that stakeholders in the Niger Delta region were of the opinion that the NDDC catered for more states, and the SSDC was going to be important because it would focus more on the South-South. Do you share in this sentiment? Does that give, does the existence of the SSDC give it more benefits as regards in comparison to what it is earning currently from the NDDC?
I would keep emphasizing on the fact that these are commissions that their intention, I emphasize on the word intention, is different. The intention of NDDC is about the environmental degradation, the economic deprivation of the people of the Niger Delta area. Now, it's a remedial commission. It's a reactive commission. So something is happening, you want to resolve it, you want to solve a need that has arisen because of the damage, of the degradation, or the economic deprivation, of the poverty level of the people. Now, that is different from the South-South Development Commission's mandate.
Which is, what's that mandate?
That is the strategic mandate of forming an economic alliance, economic cooperation within the states of the South-South, to say we in the South-South, we could have, if you think of Cross River State, for example, River State, for example, you have this comparative advantage in this area. You can bring in your comparative advantage. I have my comparative advantage. We sit down together as a state and see how we can have cooperation in this area. Let me give you an example. For example, what is happening between Lagos State and Ogun State. You have Lagos State being waterlogged. So you don't have so many land in Lagos State anymore for housing development. So Ogun State steps in and is developing housing projects in Ogun State that are being utilized by workers of the people in Lagos State. So what that means is that, of course, as they are doing that, they are also benefiting by, the payee that of workers that are working in Lagos goes to the Ogun State government.
Okay.
So Ogun State government taps from these resources, taps from this revenue, and stabilizes gains in that way. So their comparative advantage will be that they have land to provide housing estates in Ogun State. So if you have, similarly, if you have states in the South area that thinks of development, that thinks of industrialization, that thinks of tourism, for example, this is a commission that should be more involved in the strategic thinking of how to harness these ideas and see how to implement it for the development of the zone. You see, if you look at this, if not for the fact that we are politicizing it too much, that we are saying because the Northeast were given a development commission, give us development commission in the Southwest. If not for that politicization, we would be thinking of it as moving back towards regionalism. That is the regional development, regional government, where the regions will look at what they could do to harness their economic value and add value to the GDP of Nigeria. So these zonal commissions that we are having, 6 in number, and I think there are 7 when you add the hydroelectric producing areas commission. They become 7. Now, if all these commissions were to understand their mandate and were to leave politics out of it and deal with what their strategic intention of formation is, then we would have had a spark of development that would have given power to regions to be stronger, instead of us looking up to the federal government, which in itself, when you think about the politics involved, is why these commissions are formed in the first place, such that people now feel every funding is with the federal government. So let us have our own development commission to also have funding. So, but if they become very strong and powerful and are able to generate their own revenue and funding, they would be less dependent on the federal government, and you will spread development better. Unemployment issues will be addressed. They will now be thinking, you see, like we have the Odua investments. You know, Odua investment is made up of the states, some states in the southwest of Nigeria. You have that, and you are able to see that they are gaining. You know, Odua investment is an investment company. That is how these commissions should think of industrialization, think of investments that will bring value to them, that will bring revenue to them. And again, in this formation, they could even sideline what the intentions of politics may be that they were formed, and see how they could be more practical, that is, be more specific, and say, come, we in the South, power is our problem. Let us seek to address power and just forget about every other development activities. We are going to stay here and address the power problem that we are having here, and look at ways that they can do that. Outside the country, development commissions happen in the UK, in the US, like the TNSA Development Commission. Their idea is, we don't have power in our area, so they focus on power development in their area. So if these zonal development commissions can come to that, then their impact will be better felt.
Let's look at the area of the possibility of overlapping roles. Do you see these two commissions running that risk? Of course, you've clearly spelled out that their roles have been clearly defined. But let's not forget that we are here in Nigeria. And at a point, you begin to hear conversations about whether it's supposed to perform this role, then you are not supposed to do this. But do you think that it has been clearly spelled out, and we're not going to be running into that risk of, okay, we don't really understand what assignments were clearly spelled out for each of the commissions?
There is no way there will not be overlapping functions. We are in Nigeria, and we keep discussing these things about our cultural values, our mindsets, and the way we do things in Nigeria. There's no way there won't be overlapping. First of all, there is a structural problem in the formation of these commissions. There's a structural problem because you see, when you form commission, you heard I mentioned something about representation of states, participation of the beneficiary areas. It's not there. So you will still have federal government appointing people into the boards, into the management team, and they run solo as if they are an island running on their own. So you cannot run organizations like this and obtain optimum benefits from those organizations. So what you will see is that people will still keep struggling. For instance, when you talk about overlapping functions, it goes beyond the commissions. So think about the South-South Development Commission, you're thinking about the Niger Delta Development Commission. How about the states? The role of the states, the role of federal government themselves. So you also have MDAs that are participating in many of these activities. For instance, if somebody wants to undertake an agricultural program or let me keep a simple one, a road project, for example, and is coming to open up a road maybe in Cross River State. The next thing, you don't even know whether the state government has already approved a road to that area. There is no synergy.
Okay, well, is it possible? Is it possible that the SSDC, with what you just explained, it means the SSDC is going to inherit some of the uncompleted projects of the NDDC, where they try to stay in their clearly defined roles, like you put it?
Inherit? No, I would put it more...
Because the NDDC has gone beyond environmental degradation issues into road construction projects and all of that. And
no, that's still part of it.
Okay.
You cannot separate... You see, when you talk about environmental degradation, there are, for instance, NDDC also participates in issuance of scholarships and all that. But you see, they are doing that to alleviate the poverty issue that has been created by the oil spill issues, the oil degradation, all damages that has occurred to the Niger Delta area. They are doing that to do that. But you see, like I said, they are a remedial organization, interventionist, but remedial.
Okay.
But these other ones are, you know, they are more purposeful in their strategic thinking about. They are being futuristic to say, where are we going from here? How do we develop our area? What do we really require in this area to undertake the loan? So the SSDC should be give more attention to human resources development, for example, alongside other things that they need to do, which of course you may also see that NDDC seem to be doing such things, but there are still boundaries within these things that are being done. When you look at it strategically, you see an organization that is more strategic in its purpose. And you see the other organization that is, you see, when we talk about fire brigade approach, fire has happened, so you now go to quench the fire. The damages has been done, so NDDC is coming to clean up the damages. But these other people are saying, where are we? This is 2026. Where will we be in 2025? Where will we be in 2040? How do we get to 2040? What kind of economy will we be running in 2050? And they begin to lay plans in place to see how they can accomplish this journey to 2050.
Well, you talked earlier about representation and the deficit of it in the NDDC.
Yes.
But then we had an exclusive interview with the ED, the Executive Director, Finance and Administration of the NDDC, Honorable Obong Marvel, and he spoke of how the NDDC has commissioners, specific commissioners that man individual states that the NDDC represents, and these commissioners are supposed to liaise with state governors and leaders in the respective states to see to it that they pinpoint projects or areas which the states require intervention. Isn't that a clear example of representation, or are you saying these commissioners don't do enough when it comes to getting the word back to their respective states? Do you see any kind of politicizing going on there?
If I take you from your last sentence, is just the way you put it, that they are not doing enough. Now, they can't. It's not as if they wouldn't want to do enough. Let me give you an example. For example, you have the federal police operating in Nigeria. You have the commissioner of police that is being appointed at the federal level coming in to stay here. You always see problems when it comes to resolving security issues in a state. So who is taking the chief security officer in this state is giving instruction, the other is giving instruction. So who are you loyal to? Who are you really representing? The commissioners he is talking about, they are working within the federal parastatal framework. They are working within the Niger Delta Development Framework. But when I talk about representation, I'm talking about a licensed officer that would be part of a meeting of development in a development area, and is also part of this meeting that you are having in the Development Commission.
Okay.
So the effect of that is that you know the advantage of real-time reporting, for example.
Yes.
If you are doing that, you are at the same time, talk about synergy. What is happening at the State Executive Council, he can explain to say this is where we are, and you take your map from there and say this is where we want to be, and conversations occur, And the marriage of ideas will be more succinct, will be more clear if you have such representation in these development commissions.
Okay, now you talked about Ogun State and Lagos State, where
Yes.
Ogun State is tapping into the non-availability of land in Lagos State
Yes.
and developing their own region.
Yes.
Now, do you see this happening in the states of the South-South? And how do you feel the people of the state will accept this gladly? Because before now, we've had issues of the resources of the South going to the North to develop the North. Do you see that kind of scenario playing out here? And what should be done?
You've not even asked me if I believe that the development commissions will be successful.
Please, it will be successful.
Okay. So, assuming, then I'll answer your questions.
Okay.
Assuming
Yes.
that the intention is right and the intentions would be implemented according to the reason, the intention for formation, then yes, it would happen. Assuming it would happen that once that happens, you see, we are talking about economic cooperation.
Yes.
There is no way you have teamwork and you don't have results, because every team member, you don't more have the weakest link in a team. You know, the strength of the stronger, you know how it works
Yes.
in the teaming thing. So immediately a state is lacking in one area, this other state is there to be supportive. Before you know it, the 6 states in the South-South, you will not really be able to differentiate the strength and their weaknesses, because they are in a meeting, they are liaising together, they are always collaborating, they are in an economic cooperation to be able to develop their area. So if I want to do a mining industry, for example, I will be in a meeting with the 6 states and
Okay.
I'm discussing my mining industry. One of those states will tell you I have market already. So whatever will come out from there, my market here will consume it. So it speeds up development process, and you would have the benefits to every state that are members of that development commission, assuming.
And you don't see a situation where this state will feel like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul in the name of development.
No, in
and
economic
equity?
cooperation, those things don't happen, because, of course, don't forget I talk about being in a meeting. You already have your competitive advantage. You know your strengths and you know your weaknesses. The opportunities are clear. So you know your threats. So you are together, you are in one, a team.
Okay.
Well, Ms. Marvel, how much damage do you see may happen in a situation where these two commissions are unable to collaborate effectively towards discharging their various roles? Do you see any risks?
Should I say they will not collaborate? Okay. Okay. You see, in Nigeria, you have the way you see competition where there's no need for competition. Those things will come to play. That they may start competing amongst themselves. But you also know that the competition is not even between the two commissions. It also involves the federal government, ministries, and the MDAs,
Okay.
ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government, who also have similar functions to perform. You also have the states that also have its own MDAs, that's the ministries, departments, and agencies, who also have similar functions to perform. And those overlapping activities and the inherent things that are associated with these things in Nigeria, where boundaries, and it's difficult to clearly define boundaries, will also always play out. That's why I also think that this question about the states taking care of its own development and forming its own alliances as they found necessary is far better than forming development commissions to address some of these things. There, all over the world, you have development commissions that are faced with certain challenges, neither here nor there when it comes to development commissions. But the peculiarity of the Nigeria situation is such that you have governance issues, you have corruption issues, especially the corruption issue involved there. You still have this issue of ethnicity and people thinking that you build road in this area, come and build it in my own area without an economic justification for that decision. The politics involved in this Nigeria and the level of this political game is what really affects us as a country when we have these bright intentions, these good ideas, these policies that, oh, let's have a development. It's a beautiful policy, it's a beautiful thing to do, but the implementation and how we are going to go about it is the challenge. You would imagine that if you look at the 2025 budget, you see 1.1 is it 5-7 trillion naira goes to the commissions. Now, at the end of 2025, maybe we sit again and you ask ourselves, what came out from this 1.57 trillion? If you divide the amount of commission, it will give you about 225 billion or something like that. So you now look at it, what are the benefits that would have come out from this commission? So at the end of 2025, you may be able to say, did we really have a need for these commissions? Shouldn't this money have been given to the different states and let the state governors know how to administer this money and use it for the infrastructures they find necessary? Or
that also raises another question. Are they going to deploy those monies for the purposes they are meant for?
Maybe we wait for the forensic audit of Niger Delta to come out. The last audit has not come out now, so
their books are open.
We see what. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what we know.
That's what we know. Their books are open to the public.
Okay.
No, from a development perspective now, as we begin to wind down the conversation, let's look at how you feel these two development commissions can ensure that they are able to do maximally towards discharging the needs of this peculiar region that is responsible for over 90% of the wealth that the country enjoys. Can these commissions truly give back more?
Certainly, yes. That is, if there is sincerity of purpose. Certainly, yes. You have a platform to institute development. You have a platform you have all the resources available to you. I always talk about Nigeria as being very rich in human resources. So when it comes to ideas, we are not lacking in it. So if the intention is right, of course they can. But what keeps popping up in my mind is what level of corruption would be reduced for us to feel the impact of this commissions. How will the administrative arm of it function for there to be sufficient funding? So if you are saying they are going to get allocation from the budget or from the federal allocation, then how is it going to come to them, and how timely would the funding get to them? And the oil companies that they are generating, for the Niger Delta Development Commission, that they are generating funding with, I think about 70-something% of their funding comes from these oil companies. So if
IOCs,
so if all that is put down, and you see you have the resources at hand, and you now have the sincerity of purpose, you know how to allocate these resources and administer it excellently, there will be development in the region. I keep thinking about corruption level and how it will be reduced for us to be able to see the impact of these beautiful ideas of creation of commissions, development commissions.
So we can only hope, if you put it that way.
Not just hoping, we should work towards it, demanding accountability, transparency from these commissions. Now the South-South Development Commission has been set up like every other development commission. People in those areas, in those zones that maybe I should say own, this should really take ownership of these development commissions.
And avoid being compromised, because I mean, this is also another aspect.
Demand
talk about
accountability.
community relationship between the communities and the commissions. What level of synergy is needed, and how transparent are they supposed to be when projects are allocated or allotted to such regions?
Yeah, so if the stakeholders are not a problem themselves, that would say bring the money and let us share the money and we give us the contract and let us, if that is not so, then you would have these commissions operating fairly well. So if the stakeholders around really want development through these development commissions, then they should be part of those who are demanding accountability and transparency. And citizens all should demand accountability and transparency from these development commissions.
There's another question for another day about appointments and election of the board for this commission, but that's another one.
Indeed. We must thank you very much, Organization Development Consultant, Mr. Marvel Essien, for coming on Niger Delta today and helping us discuss some of these pertinent issues. 2 commissions in the Niger Delta region, and we are hoping that their goals, aims, and objectives would be achieved. And as the NDDC celebrates 25 years, we can only hope that we will continually reap the gains of the NDDC and, of course, the plans that they have for the Niger Delta region. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, sir.
We appreciate you, sir.
Thank you.
That's the size of Niger Delta today. Many thanks for staying tuned. Remember to come on the program again tomorrow, 12 noon. My name is Xavier Robert, wishing you a terrific afternoon.
And I am Awe Ruswogene Ebo, urging you to enjoy the rest of our programming. Bye.